What's going on? This is Gengar's watch list. Got my buddy Gengar back here. And today we are talking about episode number 6 of an anime that has really caught my attention this season. This was one that at the beginning I really didn't think that I was going to like this anime, but it's probably maybe my second or third favorite that I am watching right now this season. And I'll talk about why a little bit. But again, we're also going to go over just like a little bit of a recap and everything for what's been going on in this episode, what the big changes were in this episode, what it maybe means for the future of this show. So the name of the anime you can see up there is The Most Notorious Talker Runs the World's Greatest Clan. One of those classic, really long names for an anime. And we are 6 episodes in. It's the most recent episode we're going to be talking about. And this one it's really surprised me how much I liked it. And I'll tell you why. Usually when you've got these fantasy type anime, which are ones that I really like, I tend to lean towards those, whether it's somebody is brought in from another world or it's just set in that world regardless. I like the magic stuff. I like the fantasy stuff. Like elves and monsters and all that kind of thing. The adventures, those just really appeal to me for anime. But the big thing with this one is that the main character, they're usually like, a really good guy. They're a hero. They have altruistic motivations. This main character does not. So the main character here is this guy, Noel, and he just wants to become the world's greatest seeker. And so a seeker is basically the adventurer in this world. And he's going to do whatever it takes to get there. And so he does some pretty horrible things. He's already done some pretty horrible things. He has no problem killing people. He has no problem hurting people, whatever he needs to do to get where he needs to be. He sold some of his partners into slavery, this kind of stuff. So if somebody crosses him, he has no problem hurting them back to get to his end goal. Now, we've already been introduced to one of his additional clan members, and she's right on the front here. And it's a bit of a fan service character, but she is also a very powerful character. This is Alma. She is an assassin, and she's already very powerful, but as a talker, which what Noel is, basically somebody who can give buffs to other people around him, can boost their abilities. She can take on his buffs very well, was able to use them very quickly, and becomes an even more powerful character. And so he's trying to build up his team. He's looking for people. And in episode number 5, we got introduced to a swordsman. He was basically a slave, and it looked like Noel wasn't going to be interested in him. But episode 6, we got more time with that swordsman. And all of a sudden, we eventually see the swordsman in this outfit. The outfit right here that's on the cover, and you're like, oh, okay, that's who that is. This is going to be somebody that is going to be joining his clan, because I don't read the manga. I don't come into this knowing anything about this. And so everything is new to me when I'm watching this anime. But like I was saying, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this is that it's a refreshing change for this storyline, that you're not having someone who's always a good guy, that the main character it's not quite a villain, but he's definitely not good. And so it's just a nice change of pace. Now, just for awareness, again, there is a lot of violence in this anime. There's some pretty adult stuff going on in this anime. And so if you're watching with kids, just, know that going in. All right. So now let's start getting into some of the key moments from this episode, because to me, there were multiple critical moments in this episode. That's why one of the reasons I wanted to specifically talk about it. You can tell they're going to be important moving forward in this anime. It really kicks off about halfway through. We're about 10 minutes into the anime at this point, and we've got a scene where you have Koga, who's the swordsman, with his slave master, that are in they're meeting with this local mob boss, and the mob boss is basically threatening them, and all of a sudden runs in a character that we know, a character from episode number 4. This is the chief or the mayor from the village that Noel had gone to on his first mission with Alma, where they were going to go take out some bandits. They were going to make a little bit of money. Noel had worked at this village previously, but we know that the chief tried to screw him over. Noel ended up taking his eye and then taking a bunch of money that they had as well. And so that chief, he had said he needed that money back in episode 4 to pay this mob boss. Now he doesn't have it. And so he's rushed in there, and the mob boss is like, hey, everything's okay. Don't worry about it. You can pay later. but I'm going to have to take your arm. And so this is when we really learn how skilled Koga is, because he tells Koga to cut off his arm, and Koga does it with a stick. He cuts off this, chief's arm with just a stick, not a sword or anything. It's a clean cut. There is a lot of blood everywhere. It is a very violent scene. But this is where we really start to learn how powerful Koga is as a character. Then we start to get some history on him. So this is where we get this important background on Koga, where he came from, why he is the way he is today. And again, this is where we've got more adult themes here. He was the child of a rape. His mother was raped. Then she ends up killing herself. They show that later in the episode. And his father basically drowns himself in alcohol and sells Koga off into slavery. And that's where he ends up with this slave master, where he's fighting in that Coliseum, gets all his skills. And so we've gotten a lot of history now about that character. So next we have a scene that it tells you how important Koga is going to be as a character. You see him now dressed up in armor. He's not in rags anymore. And the armor happens to be the same armor that is on the screen right here. And so that's where I made the connection that it's the same character. I didn't know it was the same character before that. And so now I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be one of the main members of his clan. At this point, we know that Koga is the one that's going to be tasked with killing Noel. And so we get a scene where now Koga and Noel are facing each other. So they're going to be facing each other. Noel takes some type of potion to boost his abilities because, like I said earlier, he doesn't have any powers to really boost himself. His powers are all to help others around him. And so he's a good hand-to-hand fighter, but he doesn't have any way to boost himself. So he takes this to do that, so he can at least maybe compete with this, this sword master. And at this point, I thought we probably weren't even going to get a fight scene. I thought it was just going to push off to the next episode because this was really late. There was maybe only 1 or 1.5 minutes left in the episode. But all of a sudden, they started, and it was a really solid battle scene, good animation, and you started to see some of the different skills that these characters have. And one of the big ones that we saw from Koga was that he has this ability to freeze his sword slashes in space and then release them when he wants to later. So he can have basically ranged attacks and close range attacks. And so definitely something that's just a unique ability that he has as a character that I thought was notable. The other big thing is that while they're fighting, Noel tries to use his stun howl ability where he can basically freeze someone, and it doesn't work. So he's immune to that ability. He's also a very skilled sword master. And so the way this episode really closes out is Noel is losing. He is basically knocked off of not really a cliff, but we'll say knocked into kind of an abyss, and he is falling off that, and that's where it cuts. Now, I don't know how the next episode's going to go. I don't know how he gets out of this. I'm guessing maybe Alma comes in and saves him because he really seems like he's in over his head right now. This guy seems like he is quite a bit stronger than him. One-on-one, he probably really can't take this guy on. It's just that's not what his skill set is. I don't think he expected Koga to be as powerful as he is. And that's definitely causing some problems. But we'll see. We will find out in the next episode, I'm sure, what the conclusion is going to be and how they're all going to reconcile and he's going to end up in his clan because just the fact that he's on the cover here, we know that that's what's going to happen. But overall, great episode, a lot of, pretty critical, important moments that occurred in here. We have, the learning about Koga, learning about his skills, the battle between them. So you had some good battle scenes as well. And just the continuation of that really more or less dark storyline. And that's one of the things that I've really appreciated about this. But let me know in the comments. Anybody else watching this out there? How do you feel about this one? You've been sticking with it, but to me, like I said, I really felt like this one is worthwhile. I've really enjoyed it so far. I like that deviation from what we normally get with the hero and these fantasy type anime where you've got a character that's just a little more evil, a little more selfish, self-serving, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's just going to be an interesting anime moving forward. So I'm looking forward to future episodes, and let me know in the comments if you're looking forward to them too. I'll see you on the next one.